Welcome back to our live late show following the president's speech to a joint session of Congress. My guest tonight is a senator, former presidential candidate, and current progressive leader. He is joining us from Washington, D.C., where he was in the room during President Biden's address. Please welcome back to a late show, Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, always good to see you. How have you been?
I'm great. Good to be with you, Stephen.
Well, you, as I said, you attended the president's address this year. You've attended them for years now. Tonight's was unique because it's a speech by a president who's coming into, as he named tonight, into a nation emerging from a crisis in a deeply divided America, in a room where on January 6th there was an insurrection, an attempt to keep him from being the man at that podium. What was it like in the room tonight?
And at a moment in history where a significant number of Republicans still believe that Joe Biden did not win the election because of the big lie being perpetrated by Trump and the Republican leadership.
And people in that room. By people in that room.
That's right. Some people in that room. Look, the bottom line is I thought it was a strong speech. I thought that what the president did is take a hard look at the crises facing this country, and there are many. And what he said is, you know what? We can create millions of good-paying jobs and address these crises which are impacting our nation. Let's go forward together and let's do it. So what I was impressed with is the breadth of his discussion and the issues that he covered. Just one example, Stephen. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any other major nation on earth. And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the number of kids who are really living in terrible conditions. We don't talk about the child care crisis, pre-K crisis. And I was glad that he focused on the needs of our kids.
Well, he also he talked about a lot of ambitious policies tonight: healthcare, police reform, immigration, voting rights. A lot of it very progressive. Are you surprised that Biden is putting forth policies that are this progressive? Because the line on him was that he was going to be sort of a very moderate, down the middle kind of caretaker guy. But these seem quite surprising.
Well, you know, in my discussions with the president, I think he understands that we are living in a pivotal moment in history. And it's not only all of the problems that we face that he went over today, climate change, infrastructure, healthcare. We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, institutional racism in this country, the need for immigration, and all that stuff. He understood something else, and he talked about it. We have a crisis in democracy in America. You got 40% of the American people who no longer believe in democracy, government of the people, by the people. They're looking for a strong man, somebody on top who can take charge. And what I think the implications of what Biden was talking about tonight was saying, we as a government have got to address the pain that so many Americans are experiencing, restore their faith in their government. And if we do not do that, the future of democracy in this country is very much in doubt.
Do you think that right now we're at a moment of crisis partly because people took for granted the idea that the United States could stay a functioning democracy even if you undermined its institutions? Because there's been a systemic undermining of American institutions by some members of the political elites in Washington, D.C., mostly people on the right, who are now seeing the fruit of that undermining, and you realize that democracies are fragile.
I think that is certainly part of it. I think the other part of it, Stephen, is half of our people live paycheck to paycheck. You got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets. You got 90 million people who are uninsured or underinsured. You got millions of people working for starvation wages. People have seen their jobs go to China and Mexico. And these people are looking out and say, does anyone give a damn about me? Why should I have faith in a government in a government that has deserted me and my family. And then with that mentality, people become open for conspiracy theories, for big lies, etc. And I think what Biden is saying is we are going to address your issues. We're not going to allow large corporations to shut down in America and move abroad. We are going to create decent paying jobs. We're going to raise that minimum wage. We're going to expand health care. We're going to restore faith in the United States government. I think there's nothing more important than that.
Well, let's talk about two of the biggest plans that he talked about tonight, the American Families Plan and the American Jobs Plan. What do you think it's going to take for those bills to get through? Do you think it can be done in a bipartisan way? Or like the American Recovery Plan, is it going to have to be pushed through reconciliation?
I mean, I wish I could tell you that it's going to be done in a bipartisan way. I don't think so. I honestly, in the Senate at least, see virtually no Republicans who are prepared to address the very serious crises that we face in a serious way. I just don't think that they're there. So I think that in terms of the agenda that Biden was talking about tonight, the needs of our kids, the need for the largest corporations, some of whom pay zero in federal taxes now, to start paying their fair share of taxes. The need, and he raised an issue today, and we'll see. Keep your eye on this issue. The pharmaceutical industry in the United States has never lost a political struggle, Stephen. Never lost. They are so powerful. They got 1,500 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. They make enormous campaign contributions. They never lose, and the result is they can charge you any price they want any day of the week. They can raise prices tomorrow for no particular reason. And he said, now is the time to negotiate prescription drug prices under Medicare with the pharmaceutical industry and lower prescription drug prices for everybody. Keep your eye on that issue and see whether or not the Congress has the guts to take on a powerful industry like the drug companies.
Well, I will keep my eye on that. I'll also be keeping an eye on the infrastructure plan. I don't actually understand policy all that well. I don't always know whether what's being proposed in Washington is the right thing to do. I'll tell you what was very exciting, though, is when the American Rescue Plan got pushed through and something happened, and people like it. I'm a little worried that things are stalling right now because that's all the people who want to oppose any progress do is just stall long enough that the pot goes off the boil, if you know what I mean. How can the pressure stay on, say, the infrastructure plan alone?
I think what you say to the Republicans, if you got any ideas, we'd love to hear them, but you better get your ideas in right way because we're moving forward. We have the opportunity now to create many, many millions of good-paying jobs for blue-collar workers, for white-collar workers, for people with graduate degrees. And I'll tell you something, with regard to climate change, we don't have a choice. You know, what the scientists tell us, we have 5-7 years before there is irreparable damage done to this planet and to our country. So I don't want to sit around talking about, for years whether or not climate change is real, whether we do something or not. If we're going to save this planet for our kids and our grandchildren and create millions of jobs, we got to go forward, and we got to go forward right now. And if Republicans don't want to join us, well, tough luck. We'll do it ourselves.
We have to take a quick break, but, sir, if you can stick around, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more Senator Bernie Sanders.